Your makeup sucks, and today I'm gonna teach you how to fix it. A lot of people are talking about creasing, either in their smile lines or their under eyes. Show us where the right place is to put contour and blush. I always find myself putting them in the wrong place. Hi James, I always have issues with my shadow. Hello you guys, James Charles here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. First and foremost, okay, I'm sorry. I love you so much. I did not mean to attack you like that in the intro of today's video, but I needed a little clickbait to get the girls going, okay? In today's YouTube video, we're going back to the basics and I'm gonna walk you guys through my makeup routine, but I posted on my Instagram stories asking you guys to send me your biggest makeup mistakes. Basically, whenever you finish your routine and you look in the mirror, that one thing that you're like, oh my God, why can I not get that step correct? I compiled all the most common responses, and in today's video, I'm gonna walk you guys through my makeup routine and try to help you fix your mistakes. We're gonna start off from the very beginning of the makeup routine with, of course, our primer and skincare. Now, this is definitely a category that I got quite a lot of questions about, but the one thing that I saw the absolute most, which I'm kind of shocked by, but this DM comes from Mackenzie Ann, and she said, primer for me is a huge issue. Whenever I apply foundation over it, the primer almost always pills underneath and makes the foundation come up with the beauty sponge like my skin is super dry. Any tips? Okay, so this is actually a really simple solution. The primer and foundation that you are using are not compatible. They do not like each other. They are beefing. Okay, they have each other blocked on social media. There's been a couple of fight threats, okay?
Somebody get that hammer, bro.
They do not like each other, and you need to stop trying to force them to be together on your face because it's not working. If you look at your products, say for example, right, I'm gonna use my Milk Hydro Grip Primer. Every makeup item has ingredients, which you can find on websites like Sephora or of course the makeup brand's website, and foundations have the same thing, okay? Now, usually most skincare products are either water-based or oil-based, and they do not mix together, okay? Just like cooking. So you have to make sure all the products that you're using on your skin have ingredients that are all compatible with one another. Now, moving on to the next step, we have foundation, and this is probably the step that I received the most amount of comments, questions, concerns on. And to me, this makes the most amount of sense. And the harsh reality is, okay, there's not really an easy answer to any of these questions. And I'm gonna do my best to help you guys in today's video, don't worry. But everyone's face is so different. We all have different skin types. We all have different skin tones. We all have different face shapes, different products that work best for us. So it's really about trial and error. But that being said, okay, the questions that I received the most with today, Lenise Logan said, hey sister, I have a problem with my oily face. I always crease in my smile lines and under eyes, and I bring oil blotting sheets with me, but I feel like that just lifts up my makeup even more. And then Mia and Emma both said that they always have problems with their foundation and concealer on their nose separating and coming up, which is something that I also deal with as well. And of course, there were a lot of people that were talking about acne spots and being able to cover any pigmentation that they don't love. Let me address it all, okay? First and foremost, I will answer these while I start my base routine today. Starting off, okay, I'm going to grab a small little brush just like this and a pot concealer. There's a lot of people asking about different acne spots or covering up any areas that they don't love, and this also answers the question about the nose as well. I truthfully and scientifically do not have an answer for you as to why foundation always slips off the nose. I have been dealing with this problem literally since I started doing makeup. And a technique that I've always used to fix this is just go in with a pot concealer on your nose before every other step. This looks stupid as hell, but it adds another layer of coverage and reinforcement so that once you layer a foundation over top, it can't slip off. Or if it does slip off, there's something underneath, right? It's like wearing underwear. Never mind. And then with the same concealer, I'm just gonna go in and just lightly go over any areas where I have any sort of pigmentation. My skin's doing pretty well right now, but for those of you guys who might suffer with acne or any breakouts, this is where you're gonna wanna go right over top of this concealer. And once again, just like the nose, it's gonna apply an extra layer of coverage to make sure that everything is nice and even. Once I've let that set in for a couple of minutes, we're gonna go in with our foundation. Now today, I'm using my Too Faced Born This Way. If you've been once again on the channel for a while, you would know she's my ride or die. But that being said, okay, this might not work for you. And that's the really hard thing about foundation and concealer and really any complexion or base products is that we all have different skin, and because of that, there's gonna be different products that work best for every single type of person. And it's also gonna depend on what you're looking for in terms of some of us like super full coverage, some of us like a more light coverage, some of us like matte skin, some of us like dewy skin, some of us have dry skin, acne prone skin, oily skin. There's so many different categories, problems, and also, you know, great things that a product can either, you know, be a part of, solve, or highlight, but you really have to do some research research and honestly try some things out to see what works for you and what doesn't. I'll blend it in with a brush, but before I move on, I'm just gonna take my oversized painted beauty sponge, and before I go right into the face to even everything out, I'm gonna do a couple of little dabs right into the excess foundation that is still on my little palette, okay? I'm not really picking up any additional product. I'm kind of just getting the excess that's on there, and that way when you touch your sponge that has been wet with water to your oily foundation, do you see where I'm going with this? It's not gonna separate the product. James Nye, the science guy. James. Also, a lot of people were talking about creasing, either in their smile lines or their under eyes, and I have some rather unfortunate news for you guys, okay? There is nothing you can do to prevent that from happening. There are things that you can do to make them less harsh. One of those things being, the less product that you have on, the less creasing is gonna occur. Okay, so I actually like to, when I'm doing my foundation routine, to focus a little bit less product in my smile line areas. Luckily, my skin's pretty even over there, and therefore the less product that's there, the less that can actually crease in the first place. I also try to remember, which I forgot today, so I'm going to wipe it off just for the sake of this example, to not bring my foundation all the way up to my under eyes because there's just no point. Concealer is obviously going to be all up in this area and it is very full coverage, so we don't need 2 different layers of complexion product plus the powder plus an under eye brightening powder plus the whole fucking thing. Literally all those things layered up underneath the eyes because the skin here is very, very thin, and the more product that's there, the more creasing that's going to occur. So now I look crazy. Okay, now for concealer today, I'm gonna go to my Urban Decay Quickie Concealer. This is just one that happens to work super well for me. Unfortunately, like foundation, this is another one of those things where every product is gonna be different for different people's skin types. I personally like a more full coverage concealer, so I love the Urban Decay Quickie Concealer. I also love the Born This Way Concealer, and Shape Tape, as you know, old as it is, has always been my ride or die. It never does me wrong. And of course I try new ones every now and then, but those are the ones that really, really work well for me. And everyone's gonna be different. For example, right? Okay, a lot of my celebrity makeup artist friends absolutely love the Hourglass Vanish Concealer. This is like one of the most popular ones right now. I went out and bought this because so many people recommended it to me and I loved it at first. Oh my God, I thought it made my skin look so beautiful and airbrushed and bright, but holy shit, this creases on me so badly. And that does not mean that it's a bad product because I have seen this in action work so well on so many beautiful faces and beautiful makeup looks, so it kills me that I cannot use this. I don't know what it is, but this just does not work for me. And unfortunately, that's gonna be the same thing with a lot of you guys out there. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the product, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you or your skin or the way you're applying your makeup. It just means that sometimes products do not work well together or products do not work well for your skin. So it's really all about trial and error, testing out different products, combining different things to see what works best for you. Now, the next steps that we're going to start while our base is still on and wet are cream contour and cream blush. Now, blush and contour in general were the category that I got quite a lot of questions on, most of them being, okay, like Vicky says, show us where the right place is to put contour and blush. I always find myself putting them in the wrong place. Charlotte said a makeup mistake I always make is blush disappearing too fast. I don't know how to fix this. And Ellie says, I saw your messages in the group and I'm really struggling with nose contour. A lot of people really struggle with where to place their contour and blush, so I'm gonna try to show you guys today to make it a little bit easier. And I'm gonna grab my little Patrick Ta Contour Duo. I love this product. This is in the shade She's Sculpted, so this works really well for my skin tone, but it comes in all different shades. And in here we have a cream, as you guys can see, and a powder. Now I'm gonna start off with the cream first while my base is wet. And I'm just gonna grab this random, like, almost like it looks like a dog's paw. That's like the shape of this brush. And I'm just gonna go right in to the cream. Now, the biggest mistake that people make with their contour in general is one, going too heavy, and two, placing it in the incorrect area. Now, the guide that I like to follow in doing my contour, okay, is you wanna imagine a line between the top of your ear and the bottom of your lip. And you guys can see, okay, I have no product on right now, but even as I'm talking, you can see the little shadow that's forming right here as my jaw moves up and down. That is because there's literally a bone there. If you take your finger, okay, you can literally feel around on your cheek and you can feel where your cheekbone is. Mine is right there, okay? I'm pushing up against that, and that is where you want that line, and you want the most pigmentation to be on the edge of your face. And as you get in towards your cheek, you're gonna press less and less hard. That way it's like a nice even transition. Once that's on there, I'm just gonna use that brush to lightly blend it upwards. Okay, do you hear me? Upwards. Upwards, so this is creating a natural shadow on the cheek, which makes it look more round. Okay, it's just like shading a nice little drawing. When you're in art class and your teacher had you draw an apple or like shade in the sphere, right? You're creating the shadow down here and blending it upwards, which makes your cheekbone look round. If you blend downwards, it's gonna cause a more sunken in shadow, which gives you that like as if you got your buccal fat removed, and that is not a look, okay? It does not give, never gives. Or it can look like a beard, just like that. Now with the excess product, I'm gonna go in on my jawline, and this is where you do want to blend downwards, okay? Because unlike the cheeks, we do wanna create that sunken in look. At any point, if your contour gets a little too crazy, just grab your brush or your sponge that you did your foundation with and just go right over top or underneath to help clean that up, just like that. This is gonna keep it nice and snatched and ensure that you didn't go too heavy-handed. See how that provided a little bit of dimension there, but doesn't look too crazy? That's what we're going for. Now for nose contour, I have done a lot of content about nose contouring in the past. I've done a lot of YouTube shorts about it, but basically what we're gonna wanna do is take a small little angled synthetic brush, okay? You don't wanna do anything crazy or anything big or anything fluffy. If you're trying to do a small nose contour, you wanna be precise. And basically what I'm gonna do is grab that same product, just like this, and I'm going to sketch in 2 ski slopes. We're just gonna go right on top of the nose, creating the new shape. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that whenever you draw these brown lines on, however close or far away you make them is how big your nose is going to be. We're basically creating an illusion here. Obviously, okay, my nose is not actually that skinny, but we are trying to trick the eye using highlights and contours into believing that it is. Full transparency, okay, this tiny little nose contour will not look good on everybody. Some people might have a naturally bigger nose or thicker nose where trying to draw an illusion like this is just gonna look fucking stupid. So instead of listening to me teach you, try to find a beauty blogger or somebody on TikTok that has a nose shape similar to yours and see how they do it and see what works best. Or even on a day where you have nothing going on and you don't have to leave the house, just try out some different nose contours. Literally just do your base in this area and try putting the lines in different places, try using different concealers or different placements and see what you actually think looks best. It's makeup. It washes off at the end of the day and practice really does make perfect. Now the bridge looks nice and tiny, but the sides look pretty big because of the brown contour. So the last step that I'm gonna do is just grab a little bit of a full coverage concealer and I'm just gonna go right down the sides of the nose, just like this. Obviously this looks crazy, but see how already it's starting to create that illusion of a really tiny nose? That's what we want, okay? Now the last step is just gonna be to take our little concealer brush from before, and I'm just going to lightly go over the sides of the nose with this concealer and pat it in. We do wanna try to keep those shadows and the brightness exactly where it is, and by tapping this in with your concealer brush, this is also gonna help you to avoid any separation or creasing on your nose, like a lot of people were dealing with in the foundation step. Now lastly, before I set everything with powder, I'm just gonna go in with some cream blush. Now, this step is technically optional, okay? You don't need to do this, but one of the things that I saw a lot of people complaining about is that their blush never lasts throughout the day, and I get that. Unfortunately, a lot of powder blush formulas just are not made to be long lasting. It is one of the first steps that always kind of fades away throughout your makeup routine. So if you don't want that to happen, and if you are a whore for blush like I am,
well, I'm a whore.
Using a cream underneath your powder blush is basically like a double layer to make it stay at that much longer. So I love a cream blush. I'm just gonna use this lab sample that I'm working on for Painted. This is a really beautiful shade, and I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna pat this right on top of my cheekbones, just like this, okay? And basically what you wanna do is this should go right slightly above where you placed your contour. You don't want to overlap. We still want to keep that kind of cool tone brown shadow and dimension there because it's going to create that illusion, but we're going to place the blush right over top, and this is going to create that beautiful fleshed out look. Just like that. We obviously have quite a lot of product on our face at this point, from the foundation, the primer, the concealer, the contour, the blush. So we want to pat this as opposed to kind of scrubbing it or rubbing it in because we don't want anything to separate. All right, good to go. Let's move on to powder. When it comes to powder, I got a lot of questions about creasing, and we already talked about that when it came to foundation. It's going to happen no matter what. It's just about finding whatever products are going to work best for you and your skin. But the one comment specifically about powder that I actually got over and over and over again, and I was shocked to read this, okay? This comes from Claudia as the one example. No matter what I use, my makeup always comes off within a couple of hours when I don't use setting powder. Duh! Oh my God! Yes! Sorry, I don't want to be rude. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be rude. I don't want to be condescending. Now, I'm going to talk about this while I apply mine today. Okay, I'm going to use the Maybelline Fit Me powder. I love this shit. It's been sold out for weeks at my local CVS, and I just got it again. I'm in the shade Fair, and I'm going to use a little powder puff to press this in underneath my eyes. I thought that it was common knowledge that you have to set your face with powder no matter what. Okay, Sorry, you just do. I know that 2023 was all about radiant, dewy skin, not wearing a lot of makeup, the natural, soft little glam, and I get that, okay? I am here for that, I love that. You still have to use powder, okay? Even if you want that dewy, radiant, kind of like natural skin look, you still have to put powder on or your makeup is going to slip off your face, okay? You don't have to bake your entire face and go in like I am with, you know, crazy 3 different shades of regular powder and pink powder and translucent powder and everything to set your face. Obviously, the more powder you use, the less matte you're going to look, but you still need to do just a little bit, okay? Even if it's dipping your damp sponge into a little bit of your powder and just using that to set your under eyes and leaving everything else radiant, if you don't set your face, your makeup will slip off by the end of the day. Now that we are all set in place, I'm just gonna go in quickly and just reinforce some of those powders that we have on the face. I'm not gonna go super in depth on this, just basically whenever you use a setting powder, sometimes it can dull down how colorful or pigmented a product is underneath. So I just like to lightly go in with some powder products, just to make sure that we don't lose that dimension that we already placed on there. Starting off with a little bit of contour, some brightening powder. I'm gonna use a MAC foundation, and this step is to re-emphasize the concealer. And then lastly, blush, starting off with powder. But then what I love to do, and this is really gonna make it last all day long, like you guys were complaining about, I love to go in with a little bit of setting spray. Now I love the Charlotte Tilbury, this is my personal favorite. I'll do a couple of spritzes all over my face, and this is gonna help melt all of those powders together, because we obviously have quite a lot on. Just like that. But before that dries, okay, it's still obviously wet as you guys can see, I'm gonna grab my giant sponge one last time and I'm gonna dip into that same cream blush that we used earlier, really, really lightly, okay? I don't want a crazy amount of pigment, and I'm gonna go on the back of my hand and just pat off any excess, but you can see it's just barely there. See, and it has that little bit of shimmer and reflect to it. And I'm just gonna go in right on the top of my cheekbone, and I'm just going to pat this sponge lightly right over top. We're not gonna swipe, we're not gonna really, you know, pounce it in because we don't wanna disrupt any of those products underneath, but by having that wet setting spray skin and just adding a little bit of that cream right over top, that's gonna give us that beautiful, glowy, radiant skin type of look on the cheekbones where we would normally place our highlighter and make our skin look more radiant and natural without making everything else look like a wet, slippery slope that's going to disappear after an hour, as one of our comments said earlier. Do you see how beautiful and radiant the skin looks while still being very full coverage, very smooth, and very blended? We have a lot of products on right now, but they're all working perfectly together to create that beautiful base routine. And at this point, you guys, we're pretty much done with the skin. The next step of our makeup routine that we're gonna be focusing on is one of, in my opinion, the worst. I hate it every single time, and that is my eyebrows. Just because, I mean, you guys know I've been on quite the eyebrow journey, so I really feel like I have gotten to a good place with them, but it's just boring. It's the same shit every single time, but I know a lot of people out there really, really struggle with how to do their brows, which brings us to our first comment from Jilly, who says, my makeup mistake is that I cannot figure out what to do with my eyebrows. Point blank period, okay? Obviously there are so many different things you can do with your eyebrows. You can make them thin, you can keep them bushy and just do gel, you can make them straight, you can make them arched. And if I was to do, I could literally sit here and do a 6-hour-long masterclass on just eyebrows alone. So instead of doing that and wasting your time, I'm just gonna give my kind of general rule of thumbs that I like to follow when doing either my own brows or a client or really anybody else's. Now, the first thing that I wanna go over is placement. Overall, okay, the rules that you wanna follow is the front of your brow should line up with your nostril. So as you can see, this one does. The arches should end if you basically draw a line from the corner of your nostril to the corner of your eye. So as you can see, mine did not, which is why I always like to extend my tails. And the arches should be if you draw a corner from the, sorry, from the corner of your nostril through your eyeball. Does that make sense? So in terms of brow pencils, I'm just sticking with my Anastasia Beverly Hills, tried and true. For color, I like to go a couple shades lighter. For me, I obviously have very dark brown hair, so I like to use soft brown so they don't turn out like Sharpies. And then I just like to go in and start filling in. I'm gonna zoom you guys in. I like to start off by tracing a really light line in the front of my brow. I'm just basically going at the bottom of where the hairs start to grow, following it all the way out to the tail. And then when I get out here, I like to pull it out and slightly extend it. Now keep in mind, wherever you draw your brow tail is going to affect your arch. So as you guys can see, I like to have mine pretty straight, okay? They're certainly not going up and then all the way back down. Mine are going like, if I hold my face at this angle, you can kind of see they're almost at like a straight line. So I like to do that because that really helps to lift my face up. And then once again, my general rule is that the front should always be very, very light and feathery, and the tails can be a little bit more darker and more precise with your filling in. So once again, now that we have this bottom line done, I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna start at the top of my arch, and I'm gonna draw this down. So connecting those two lines together to create the triangle shape. And then I'm just going to go in and fill it in. And I'm pressing pretty hard this time because I want this to be more pigmented. See, just like that. And now we're gonna do the top of the brow. So I'm going to fill in the arch. I love using my spoolie in between to help blend and make sure that nothing gets too crazy. And now, as you can see, this is already looking really good, okay? This is nice, this is shapely, it's gorgeous, but you can see I have a little bit of patchiness just in the front of my brow from where there's no hairs. So at this point, all I'm gonna do is use that pencil and I'm going to very, very lightly just fill in the top of my brow, just so we have that line there. Once again, brushing in between. Then I'm just gonna use that pencil to really, really lightly just do some feathery little strokes, just like that, to kind of fill in any sparse areas. Now you can definitely stop here with the filling in, but like I said, I like my tails to be a little bit more sharper and defined, and I like to add some dimension into the brow. So what I'm going to do is my last step is grab a little brow pen. Now this one is from NYX. It is the Lift and Snatch Brow Tint Pen. I love this product. It is phenomenal, only like $6 at the drugstore. And all I'm going to do is go in and I'm just going to fill in the tail of my brow, okay? So once again, following that bottom line, and I'm just gonna add in some tiny little hair strokes just to add some dimension into the brow. Ooh, look at how much better that looks. See, so good, so gorgeous. Love, 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 love. Okay, now we're gonna set it in place. I'm just gonna use my Benefit Brow Gel. I've been using this for years and I love this one. Just brushing this through the hairs really lightly. I like to use a light layer of this to lock the hairs in place, but still keep them kind of fluffy and natural looking. I know that the kind of laminated brow is very in style right now, and you can definitely do that, but I find that a lot of the brow gels that are used to create that style can really turn your brow hairs gray, ashy, or like chunky if you kind of use too much of it. So just use a little bit and that's all you need. And it's really doing wonders to kind of lift and pull together my whole face. So at this point, I'm gonna go in and do the other one quickly off camera, and I'll be right back to start off on eyeshadow. Unlike brows, this step I do love, okay? Love eyeshadow. You guys know if you've been on the channel for a while, I just love doing fun looks. It's my favorite thing about makeup. You really get to spice it up. You can match your outfit. You can do a new vibe. You can try out different tips, techniques, shapes, sizes. Now, Sam says, hi James, I always have issues with my shadow. I don't know if I'm not blending correctly or if I'm using the wrong cheap brushes. Please help. Sarah says, hi babes, I struggle a lot with my eyeshadow blending and also when the glitter from the eyeshadow falls down on my cheek. Please help. Paris says, makeup help, I struggle to get a crisp cut crease. Help please. Well, don't worry you guys, I'm here. Let me show you some easy tips to fix all the above. First and foremost, okay, when you're doing your eyeshadow, you wanna make sure you have a really good base for everything to layer and stick on top of. If you wanna do a natural base routine, that's fine. But if you wanna do an eyeshadow look, you have to use a primer, a concealer, something to go on your eyelids first to act as a base for everything to stick on top of. It'll make your eyelids so much more even so the shadows will blend out and look a lot smoother, and it'll give it something to stick to, okay? So I would not skip that step. Even if you're going for a light base, still put on the concealer, okay? You're gonna thank me in the end. So just like this, I'm applying some concealer right over top, and now we have a nice and even base to work on. Look at that, flat, okay? But now we're gonna add some dimension back. Now, before I start with any actual shadows today, okay, one of the questions that I got was how do I avoid fallout, especially when it comes to glitter? And let me show you, okay? All you're gonna do is open back up your setting powder that you used earlier. Just get some excess in the top of the container, grab whatever powder puff you use to set your face, and we're gonna put a little bit of this powder underneath your eyes. Now, if you guys have been watching makeup videos for a really long time, this is obviously called baking, but we're not really doing this to kind of brighten everything up, although it is a nice side effect. We're doing this more so there's a layer of product in between the eyeshadow fallout and the skin. That way, whenever we finish the look, if we do have any fallout, we're just gonna brush away the excess powder and the fallout will go right with it. So this is an easy hack to avoid any problems. Now, let's start with some actual shadow. I'm gonna go in today with the Painted Basic Canvas palette, okay? We're back to the basics in today's YouTube video, so this is the perfect palette to use. We're gonna do a fun little kind of warm cut crease using the shades like UV Index, Oak, everything here. So let's get started. The first thing that we're gonna do is start off with a round, fluffy brush. Now this is our J13 from Painted. Okay, it looks just like this. As you guys can see, it's nice and round, it's fluffy, and this is gonna be what we're gonna use for a transition shade. I'm gonna grab a little bit of UV Index, and I'm just gonna go right in over top of that wet concealer, and I'm gonna start just layering in this shade right above my crease. Now, if you don't know where your crease is, all you're gonna do is hold a mirror right below your face, just like this. You're gonna tilt your head up and then back down. And do you see where your eyelid folds? For me, it is right here, okay? You can also stick your little brush in there. Be careful, obviously. You're gonna be able to feel where your eyebrow bone is, so that's where your crease is. And we're gonna put this shade right above that crease, and that is gonna be what creates that shadow. We're basically contouring our eyelids. We're just gonna go in with a really, really light hand as well. You don't need to go crazy, you don't need to pack this on. This is just our transition shade. And one step that I also love to do too is with our transition shade, we're gonna blend this right into the nose contour. This whole area, we really want to be all synchronized. And do you see how just right away, you can already kind of see where that cut crease is gonna go, right? It's right in that crease line. Now we started off with this round fluffy brush, but the next brush that we're gonna use is a crease brush. Now I will use my painted J11, then we're gonna grab a shade just slightly darker than the one that we just used. So I'm gonna use a little bit of oak, and this is also gonna go in the crease, but we're not going to blend this as high up. So we're gonna put this in the same exact place, right in the fold of my eyelid. And as you can see, the darker color goes right in there, right? Just like that. And we're just gonna wiggle this back and forth with little windshield wiper motions. And because of the shape of that brush, it's going to kind of blend that out as we go. Just like that, see? Then I'll go back in with my first brush and my first shade and just go over top of that to make sure that it's nice and evenly blended out. Do you see that? Gorgeous. Now, we'll do the outer corner. Now I'm just gonna go right back in with that oak and my J11 once again, and I'm gonna pack this shade just right here on the outer corner of my eyelid because we're gonna create that like winged up V shape. So I'm just gonna put that on using the flat side of the brush, okay? Just packing the shade right on there. And then I'm just gonna use that same brush to lightly blend it into the crease, bringing everything together. Just like that. And then we'll go back in with our J13 and our UV index as a transition, and we'll use that to make sure the edges are nice and blended out. It's much, much easier to start light and go darker than it is to start dark and go lighter. Once the shadows are on there, if they are pigmented, it is really hard to remove them. So you can always build up. I'm just gonna layer in a slightly darker shade. This is Treehouse, just adding in some dimension, but that is pretty much our little crease all complete. Now it's time to cut it. Now, when it comes to cutting the crease, there are two things that you're gonna need. One, a flat and precise round concealer brush. This is our painted J2, and as you can see, it's nice and small, which is perfect for cutting the crease. And number two is some sort of cream or liquid product. Now you could either use a liquid glitter, you could use a concealer, you can use a cream or liquid shadow. For this makeup look today, I am gonna use Create paints because I really want to tie in my shirt with these nice like fun little dark bluey purple colors, and I want to do that color on my crease. So that is obviously not a commonly used color in shadow, so I'm going to use Create paints to mix those together. I'm going to use Turning Violet and a little bit of Blueprint and a little bit of ink. Once you have your perfect color or glitter or concealer all mixed together, all you're going to do is grab a little bit of that on your flat brush. Now what I like to do is really make sure that I'm getting any excess off of that because you want the tip to be extremely precise. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to keep my elbow on my table. I don't care if it's rude, okay? We're not eating dinner, but you need to be nice and stable and balanced. Now what I'm going to do is basically start using this brush and stamping this liquid product into my crease. Now once again, okay, your crease line is where your eyelid naturally folds. So when I'm doing cut creases, I like to go right above that line because if you go right into it, when you open your eye, you're going to lose all of that beautiful shadow work that we're going to do in a couple of minutes. See, and now we have the general shape on there. Keep in mind, similar to adding eyeshadow, once you have this kind of like either concealer or paint or any product on there, it is really hard to remove it, especially if you have an intricate eye look. So it's much easier to start small on your cut crease and go bigger or higher up if you need to. Now, as you guys know, Create paints do dry down fully matte, so I could leave this here, but I know most of you guys watching today's video will of course be using a concealer or setting it in place with the shadow, so I'm going to do the same. I'm gonna grab this Rosie McMichael X Beauty Creations palette because these have these beautiful like blue and purple tones, and I'm gonna use a color right down here just to set it in place because this is the color that I'm going for. And then one thing that I like to do with my eyeshadow, even if I'm doing a darker color like this one, I always love for that inner corner to be brighter, so I'm just going to layer on a lighter purple that has a slight shimmer right into the inner corner of the lid. Once I have that crease all cut, I'm just gonna go back in with my dark brown shade one last time on that same J12 brush, and I'm just gonna pack this right back in that outer corner, basically just wiggling that brush brush in between to blend together the brown and, in this case, our purpley color. And this is gonna help bring everything together. Now, the very last step that I sometimes love to do, and this is a great secret from my friend Paris that asked about having a super sharp cut crease. Once you have the shades all on there, okay, obviously they are all fully there, what you can do is grab an angled small brush and dip into that same dark brown shade that you used to darken your crease. In this case for me, it was a little bit of Treehouse. I'm just gonna tap that in on that brush, and what I'm basically going to do is go back in and trace that original crease line right above those shadows. And see, what that is gonna do is not only get rid of any excess shadow that may have ended up above where the crease was supposed to be, but it's also going to redefine that cut at the exact same time. And now that is pretty much the shadow all complete. If I take my little face brush and if I brush away the powder down there, as you can see, any of the fallout goes right with it, and we are left with a super clean, beautiful eyeshadow look. Now, the last thing that I love to do before I move on is just take my face powder once again. So this is that same MAC powder that I used to brighten up underneath my eyes. And I love to grab a flat little brush. This is our painted J12. And I love to just go right in and see how we have this like shadow out here. It's pretty precise already, but I love to take this brush and just go right like this underneath that shadow. And that is going to really sharpen it right up. See that? Ooh, so good, so pretty. All right, we're done with the shadow. At this point, let me go ahead and do the other one off camera just to get the eyes even, and we'll be right back for everything else. All right, you guys, the eyeshadow is all done. I love how this look is turning out so far, and our next step before we go into eyelashes is going to be liner. Now, this is a step obviously that so many people struggle with. Bitch, even still to this day, after doing makeup for however many years now, okay, there are still so many times where I'll finish my eyeliner, look in the mirror, and those bitches will be pointing completely different directions, okay? Now you might not like this, okay? I know this is the whole like how to fix your makeup problems, but just like eyebrows, I could sit here and do a 6-hour-long course about how to do proper eyeliner, and you don't have that time, I don't have that time, and also, potentially a controversial opinion, I think every look needs an eyeliner, but not necessarily a wing, okay? Especially if you're doing a crazy winged out shadow look like this, I think adding a thick black wing would really mess this up. But since we are gonna glue on falsies, I am gonna grab my favorite liquid liner. This one is from Tom Ford, and I'm just going to really small, thin, lightly trace my lash line. That way, when you put that thick lash band on there, it blends in and doesn't just look like it's randomly floating on top of your eyelids. Okay, just like that. Now that looks crazy. Obviously it looks ugly, it just stops in the middle of the eyelid. That's what you want though, okay? Bear with me. We're gonna do the same thing on the other eye. And now, all I'm gonna do is take a black shadow. So once again, I'm gonna grab my basic canvas and I'm gonna grab a small flat brush. This is my J7 from Painted. And I'm gonna grab a little bit of Theodore. And I'm just going to go in and I'm going to lightly tap this black right over the edge of that liner to blend it in to the shadow. And by doing that, see how it kind of creates that like winged out look anyway, but it's not that like super harsh black line that would mess up the blending of the shadow. Now, when we put a lash on top of that, it's going to look nice and even. Okay, we're gonna do some lashes and mascara, and luckily, I feel like this is a step that we did not really need to talk about. I got thousands of DMs that I was looking through yesterday, and almost nobody was talking about lashes and mascara, and that's because I feel like even on no makeup days, most of you guys are wearing, you know, a curled lash and a mascara. We all have our different techniques and products that work best for us. So I'm just gonna do mine, and we'll go right on to false lashes. Now, when it comes to adding a lash to your makeup look, it is a really personal experience. Different lashes are going to work for different people, different eye shapes, and most importantly, different makeup looks. Now, some people love a big fluffy lash. Some people like a small little natural Ardell Demi Wispy lash. Some people like, you know, wearing a drag lash. It's totally up to you, whatever style you like best. For me personally, and for this makeup look that we did today that is very winged out, I like a flared out lash that starts off shorter in the front, but gets longer as we go out to the edge, because I think that really accentuates my eyes and the makeup. So all I'm gonna do is brush a little bit of glue onto the band of that lash. As you guys can see, the band is blue because the glue is on there, and I use the Duo brush on adhesive. This is my absolute favorite. And then what I'm going to do to glue this on, okay? I know a lot of people really struggle to glue on their lashes, so what I love to do is have a compact mirror below my head and I like to tilt my chin upwards. That way you can really see your lash line. Because if you sit like this and try to glue it on, it's never gonna work because your eyelashes will be in the way. But if you go like this from a below angle and you place the lash on top of the lashes, you can slide it downwards right into place. Not a minute. If you let that glue dry for a couple of seconds before putting it on, as soon as it makes contact, it should stick right away. I always use a pair of tweezers just to adjust it and make sure that it is nice and properly placed there. Now, we see that's all glued on there. Then what I love to do is just take my tweezers, and I do this very, very carefully, okay? And I'm basically going to go in and I'm going to really carefully open my eyeball, and I'm going to pinch together my lashes that are still slightly sticky from the mascara with the fake lashes. If you're too scared to do this with your tweezers, I don't blame you. There's definitely been several times where I have ended up crying off a really beautiful makeup look because I poked myself in the eye during this step and I couldn't stop it from watering. Truly devastating, okay? But it does make the world of a difference. And lastly, once that's on there, I'm just gonna go in and I'm going to push that lash upwards just to help fold it. And that's going to make sure it is sitting nice and pretty on my lash line. Look at how pretty. Oh my God, I feel so good. Okay, let's do the other one. Lashes are done, and before you ask, yes, we are skipping bottom mascara. You'll also notice I skipped lower lash line shadow as well. I don't always do this, but personally, I love it. I think it looks so much more like lifted and pulled and just like gorgeous when you don't have anything below there, so I therefore skip mascara too. Moving on, last but not least, we have the lips. Lips are, for me, so personal. Whenever I get my makeup done by makeup artists, I always ask to do my own lip liner and lipstick because I feel like I have my shape perfected and not everybody gets it right, but everyone's going to have their own shape that they love is my point. So I'm gonna show you how you can overline because Miss Burrito Bonita said, I created this look using Create paints for my eyes and eyebrows and cheeks. First of all, bitch, you look sickening. Absolutely gorgeous. I love to see the queens using the paints. Thank you so much for your love and support. I often have issues with my lipstick smudging and then overlining. Let me show you, girl. Let me show you how to fix it. Okay, so the biggest mistake that a lot of people make when they're overlining their lips is to literally take their lip pencil and just go like, make some giant circle, okay? And that is not the vibe. It looks crazy. It looks like you're a fucking clown. It's giving duck lips. It is not good. And you're not fooling anybody either, okay? And the whole point of overlining is to trick the eye into thinking that you got some lip filler. So I'm gonna show you what to do. So instead of overlining the entire lip, what we're going to do is only overline the middle. The middle of your lips, that's the only shit that's getting overlined, okay? Look at this. I'm gonna zoom you in. For my lip liner today, BTW, I'm using MAC Oak, okay? I'm gonna go like this, gonna fold in my lip, and what I'm gonna do is draw right above the middle. See, just like that. That's it. But now, okay, we're gonna only overline here, and then we're going to play connect the dots, and we're gonna connect this overlined line to your actual regular lip corner. And look at how good that looks. See, it's nice and plump, it's overlined, but you don't look crazy. Now we're gonna do the same thing on the bottom, okay? So just like this. I really don't like to overline the bottom lip much because you can't really tell, unless you have flat, small lips. In that case, I'm saying a prayer to you. Okay, overlining the bottom lip, just like that. Now if I go like this, it looks kind of crazy up in there, okay? But that's what you want, just small. Then once again, connecting back to the regular inner corners. Beautiful, stunning, and also gorgeous. Now, once the lip is all lined, you're just gonna go into your lipstick, okay? I'm gonna use Kylie in the shade 808 today. I love to use a brownie lip liner and then a pink lip in the center, but once again, you can use any combination that you love and feel confident in. I'm just gonna go right in, and this is a cream lipstick, by the way. You can use a liquid if you want to, but I am over it. Don't like it. Crusty, dry. I'd rather have a comfortable matte lippy that I might have to reapply once or twice throughout the day if I'm wearing this for a long time than some dry ass fucking cracked ass Sahara Desert butthole lips. No thanks. And if you want to, you can use a lighter shade right in the center, and that is going to help make your lips look even more plump. And last, but very much not least, we're going to set this shit in place. I don't have any specific setting spray questions, but I'm gonna teach you how to do it, okay? Going back in one last time with my Charlotte Tilbury. Love this one so much. I love a wet setting spray first. So I'm just gonna go right in. And then once again, that wetness is gonna help melt all the powders back into place. I always have a little portable fan next to me. So I'm just gonna turn this on, help it dry. Now the wet setting sprays can add a little bit of radiance and dew back to the skin. So before I do my last step, I do like to take my powder puff one last time and just pat any areas that might get shiny, like my T-zone, like my nose, or like the center of the forehead. So now we have the radiance where we want it, but nowhere else. And the very last step is to use another setting spray, but this time I like a dry aerosol. This one is the Until Dawn from One Size. It's waterproof, and this shit is gonna make your makeup last all day long. So give it a good little shake, and then we're just gonna go right in. We're done, we're done, we're done. Thank God. This was quite a long, rigorous, extensive, complicated makeup routine today, but I really wanted to make sure that I took my time and walked you guys through every single step, and I really, really hope that by the end of this, I've helped you learn what mistakes you may be making throughout your makeup routine, and of course, how you can now work to fix them. Just remember, makeup is an art form. It is a learning process. Practice makes perfect. You're never gonna get right on the first try. That is the beautiful thing about it. Okay, one makeup wipe, and you can wipe that shit off and start all the way over. Keep practicing, keep trying, test out new products, see what shapes and techniques work for your face, and eventually you will be a makeup pro. If you guys enjoyed today's video and you liked all the makeup tips, please, 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 please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up down below. Your love and support really helps out the channel quite a lot, and this was a long video too. So if you want to see more videos like this, let me know down in the comments, and let me know what other makeup mistakes you might be making in case we do a part 2. We probably will not, but you never know. If you have not already, make sure you click that big red subscribe button for more makeup tips and tricks down below, as well as clicking that bell icon so you guys never miss an upload from me. If you want to follow me on my social media accounts, my Instagram and TikTok are just James Charles, and of course, make sure you follow my brand Painted at painted.co, available online for shopping, also at painted.co. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I love you, and I will see you next time. Bye.